Hi, I'm Sarah from Heirloom Creations, and if you cut strips for your quilts with this type of ruler, you're doing it all wrong because you want to get the new ruler from Creative Grids called Stripology. This allows you to put your fabric underneath and cut multiple strips at the same time. This is going to save you about 70% of your time and have more time to sew. So the quilts behind me are from the new booklet called Stripology, all cut with 1.5 inch strips. Now I'm going to show you how you can cut strips not only for your quilts but also for binding. If you like 2.5 inch strips, super easy, but if you like 2.25 inch strips for binding, we're going to show you how you can use this ruler to cut the smaller increments. If you are also a lover of the 10-inch squares, this has a 10-inch square template on it to make it super easy and to also subcut some of those strips. So you cut a strip and then you need to turn around and cut it into this many squares and this many rectangles. This is going to be your ruler of choice. And of course with the non-slip grid options that are on all these little slit areas, this is going to make sure you have perfect, accurate cuts every single time. The Creative Grids Stripology ruler has this fabulous little workbook that you can get to really get excited about using up your scraps of fabric and get comfortable using this particular ruler. Let me show you a few things that you have on it. First off, every 1/2 inch there is a slit line. You also will find that you'll cut a very common amount of 2.5 inch strips. For example, those are all labeled at square increments. So I love the fact that they've added these little quick eyeball items so I can find them at a glance and not have to count and keep track of where I need to cut. Also, 1.5 inch cuts is another common use, so those are labeled with stars, so I know exactly where to put my rotary cutter in the right slot. Now when you go to line up your ruler, what you want to do is line it up so that bottom edge is lined up with the black line. So I've got my fabric folded here so I get a nice even line up. And I also want to extend a little bit of my fabric just to the left of the 0 slit. Now as I put my rotary cutter in the slit, all I have to do is push down and stop when I get to the other end. Now if I'm cutting 2.5 inch strips, I'm going to just look for the square and continue on. This is where you would normally use and move your ruler, but without having to stop and lift and reposition, you just continue to cut all the way across your fabric, and you can cut up to 20 inches all the way to the other side. So when you take a look, let's see where we've got the little excess here on the end, and then we've got all of our strips ready to go, and we're ready to cut. So if you didn't cut all the way through at the end, just go ahead and give that a little slit, and it's super easy to go ahead and find yourself with lots of strips ready to go. So you can also cut 1/4 inch increments. For example, I'm going to cut this up into 1 1/4 inch. And it's going to take 2 parts, a part A and a part B. And in your directions, you'll have the setups for what you need to cut. So I'm going to start off with our first one. We're going to cut, so I've got everything lined up. I will start with my 0 cut for a nice clean cut. We're going to cut at 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10. All right, next what I'm going to do is just slide my little excesses out and make sure nothing moves. And then all I'm going to do is move my ruler to the dotted line. There's a dotted line to the left of the 0 line. We're going to reposition everything. There we go. And now I'm going to recut. With everything lined up, I'm going to cut at the 1. I'm going to slide this down so I get my first cut going. 1, and then 3.5, 6, and 8.5. Love this. How quick is that going to be for 1.5 inch strips from a very small amount of fabric? Super accurate. With the Stripology ruler, you notice that there is a 10-inch square printed right on the ruler. Now, since most of your rulers don't go up to 10-inch wide, cutting a 10-inch strip out of fabric, well, you got to measure or mark or do something with 2 rulers. This is going to be super simple because we've got a 20-inch mark right over here. So we're going to start off by go ahead and cutting at 0. And then I'm going to slide this up just a little bit because I didn't get all the way up to the top because this is a full piece of fabric all the way from one end to the other. There we go. And then 10 inches and then 20 inches. There we go. So now what we can do is turn the fabric, so take my ends off, and if I want to cut this into 10-inch blocks, we can go ahead. Now you decide how much you want to layer. If you're comfortable layering more than 4 layers, go for it. If you don't feel like you do as accurate cutting with that many, just simplify it. Of course, it's still going to be so much quicker when you actually use the Stripology ruler. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and put this back down and then go ahead and cut at 0. That's going to cut off my selvages. Cut at 10 and then cut at 20. And we have lots of 10-inch squares. Now if we wanted to, we could even go ahead and reposition this back on, because so many things are cut out of layer cakes these days, and that's a 10-inch square. So if I wanted to cut these up into 5-inch squares, I can just come back and cut those 5 and then turn it and then cut them 5 again. So many things can be just cut down to what you need them to be, and you will have perfect, accurate squares for your next quilt. You'll also notice that you have 45-degree and 60-degree lines that you can set your fabric up to and start cutting some of those odd shapes, such as diamonds. So if I just go ahead and start here and just slide on through, then you'll find you will have new shapes very easy when we have diamonds. So no matter what your pattern asks for, you'd be surprised how many different pieces you can cut out of the Stripology ruler. Also from the designer of Stripology and GE Designs, you're going to find Nina, a smaller pattern, which is great. It's like a 9 patch with a little bit of a twist in here. And also the eye strip pattern, which is great for using 2.5-inch strips or things from your stash if you're using the Stripology ruler. So make sure you visit our website at heirloomcreations.net and check out these patterns and order your Stripology ruler today.